DPW Building Committee meeting to order. And first up to is accept the minutes of okay, here we go. The agenda, the minutes of oh, that's the minutes. Here we go. Except minutes of 3-5. Making my agenda. Anyways, okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
I put it underneath. That doesn't do me any good.
Can't read upside down, Jimmy? What's the matter with you?
Any corrections, comments?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Randy has,
I have to leave shortly. I gotta go to a wake in Deerfield, and then I've gotta go to a select board meeting tonight. I just wanna make everybody aware, I don't know what my fellow members on the select board are contemplating relative to putting this article on the warrant. Well, at our last meeting, there was concern about too many things happening. My attitude is that the townspeople gave us the money to do what we're doing here in order to bring them back a report so that they could vote on whether they want to build a new building or not. So I'm going to push that we have it on the warrant, but I can't guarantee what's going to happen. So just be ready for that.
When will you know that, Randy?
Well, I don't know. I don't know we'll see what happens tonight. See what the pleasure of the other board members is, and I know the warrant's going to close on April 16th, so it could go as long as that.
One more meeting, probably, or?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I would hope that tonight I can get a pretty good feel.
Because, I mean, that, that would affect the open house.
Right.
Obviously, we're not gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
Before we
Do you
go.
know how much money was spent on the first survey, or from Wes and Sampson? On the first committee, they came up with $30 million. Jimmy presented it.
That
You have
was,
a clue?
I don't remember.
well,
What did they give us?
Carolyn never gave us an amount. When we asked her one time, where's the money coming from? She said it's coming out of some kind of budget that line that the selectmen had, and she never gave us what the price what was being spent on that. She alluded to the fact that it wasn't a lot in the order of, I'm gonna guess, and this is really a wild guess, 10,000, something like that, to 15, 20,000. It wasn't a ton of money.
I don't know. I don't know
Well,
the answer to
The
it.
point of the
I
question
think
is,
it's more than that.
we're spending $225 here.
Right,
We spent some more, 10 or 25,000.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be good if you reminded the rest of the board that we're throwing a lot of money away if we
Right.
don't do it. So.
Right.
Put it on the warrant, and hopefully it'll go, but at least it gives the townspeople something.
Right. My opinion is up to the townspeople to decide, not the select board. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Is it, should we ask Linda or someone what that number is? I mean, I think they should be able to get it for us, what Weston and Sampson should be, what's paid, right? We
What
can
was
get
that,
that.
Weston and Sampson was paid?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be able to find that out.
We should probably do that so that we have the number.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we don't really have we don't have a hard figure of what we want to build, but we don't have a guess, or a decent guess, on what it's going to cost people per 1,000.
Right.
Well, no, I was waiting to see after today what we come up with, Greg comes up with, and then go back, because he also has a second number that, was it Boxborough? Boxford is going out to bid. I'm not sure when that is going on, but he said that is relatively soon from, I'm not sure what that means, but he said that it's almost the same size facility as ours, but they have a lot more money in groundwork. So he says, we could just kind of pull out the groundwork from the basic costs, is we'll get an idea of, you know, our estimate of 20 million. And he says, you know, how does that compare to what the bids are actually coming in at?
Here he comes.
So we can ask him all that.
Well, it's just important that people know how much we already spent.
Right.
And to do
We're
nothing
invested in
is
Yeah.
real waste, you know? You can do studies. My opinion is that the town, along with the state, they do a lot of studies. And then they throw the thing on a shelf.
Right.
And like they've been telling us, 2-3 years down the road, you know, you gotta kind of redraw because you're doing something different and the prices all went up.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, I don't wanna pay more taxes, but I don't wanna see 250,000 thrown away.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, 100%.
Welcome.
Good. Neil
How-
wasn't kidding. He said he was gonna move the meeting if I wasn't there.
Told you, moved it right, it's right.
How was your trip?
What's that?
How was your trip?
It was great.
Was that a vacation?
It was a vacation and to visit my son,
Oh, okay.
so.
Which makes it sound like visiting your son is not a vacation.
Some days it's not. Let's put it this way, every time we went out to dinner and everything, I never saw him reach for his wallet.
Isn't that what daddies are for, though, and mommies?
And then when we'd stand in line or something, he would turn to my wife or me and say, "Where's the credit card?"
You got
You
that
know,
business
You
expense.
brought him
right
up
there.
well.
Nice.
You looked at some architecture while you were out there, I'm sure.
He probably fixed everything for him that needed fixing while he was there, so.
Greg, just to bring you up to speed, we were briefed by the committee that there is some hesitation on the select board's level to actually put the warrant article onto the town meeting agenda for this May. There's been no definitive choice as to whether to omit it or whether to include it and move forward, so that we were just discussing various paths forward, depending on how that shakes out.
Well, I would encourage him to go. The only reason I say that is we just took our sub-bids on the box for DPW, which is approximately the same size. Other than the roofing job, the roofer, we only got one roofer, we pre-qualified 5, but we only got one roofer. His price was off the charts. We're not rebidding it because he came in twice as what we estimated 150, he came in at like 340 or something. And it was very small. But just going through bid docs and stuff, roofers are really, I mean, roofing is just high this month. I don't know why. However, so the good news is, even if you factor that in, the bids came in 900,000 less than the estimates on those. We are estimated at $20 million. Right now, I'm hearing on the street, because I've talked to a couple of contractors, they go, "Where did you get your estimate?" But yeah, he goes, "Yeah, I think you're way off." I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "We think we're going to be under 18 million. We saw bid docs just bid a school for, it was estimated at $92 million, came in at $82 million. Okay, right now, every contractor that I've talked to is hungry. There is no big work out there.
Okay.
You get one of these DPWs come out, and they're like flies all over me. They're just calling to see what's happening. Everything else out there, if you I looked at the central register today and stuff, you have 100,000 here, 40,000 there. There might be a smattering of like a $500,000 or $600,000 project. There is nothing in the middle. So
We saw similar positive results. We opened sub-bids on a police station, 53,000 square feet, and they came in about $2.5 million below budget. So that's we're only halfway there.
Okay.
But it was still, you know, it was about 10% below where we thought they were going to be. So that was a very good, positive development for that community.
So if Boxford comes in under 18 million, like I'm hearing, and I know some of the contractors also have a $17.8 million threshold,
TCAM limits.
the CAM limits, so they're all going after it hard. Because they say, they'll even take it at cost, just to make sure that they have the work to carry them through. And that had probably about $4 million worth of site work in that number. So assuming that yours is cut in half because you're not building on a landfill, doing everything else, I mean, again, we'll only know once you bid it. You could possibly see this in the $15 million range.
Come in, was it?
You could potentially see your project come in like the $15, $16 million range.
I wouldn't dare ask for that kind of low money. I would be,
No.
oh, no.
I'm not saying, I'm
No,
not,
you asked for
Yeah.
the.
you asked for the thing,
upper.
but what I'm trying to say is, all trends are showing right now that bidding is good. This whole thing with the tariffs, that's sending everybody into a tailspin. Now there's discussions as to whether, because you're a tax exempt, some lawyers are saying that the tariffs are a tax, so they are exempted from the tariffs. Others are saying no. I mean, anyway, bottom line is, there's not a lot of work out there. There's a little uncertainty. I mean, I'm not saying massive uncertainty.
Right.
There's a little uncertainty. I don't know what the electrical suppliers are doing. They're still playing their game. It's 8 months, 12 years, 17 years to get a panel or something. But they're even coming in on time, you know. They're just coming in a little longer than you typically, you know. Because with the, you know, on that Hudson generator, you know, we were anticipating 12 months, and this town actually ordered it in advance of the start of the project, and they got it in 3 months. You know, so I'm encouraging all of our clients now to go ahead, put the projects out. The fact that you would also be putting this out if you approved it in May, in the September, October timeframe is even better, because even if the work doesn't start until, say, March or April, the fact is, everybody will want that on their budget, because they've had a lean summer now, or will be having a lean summer, that they'll probably go in pretty aggressive on that too.
So
So-
would you suggest we ask for less than the 20?
No.
Okay, well, so that's always, I want to first be very clear on this. When people say that, are we talking project cost, or are we talking hard cost?
Total cost.
Total cost, so.
Right now, our total cost was 20.1 million, you said.
Correct. We had $20.241 million, yes. So, your total construction costs right now are sitting at about 17 million,
Okay,
which is comparable, if I put the site work on for Boxford, because I think Boxford was sitting at about 19 million. So
Okay.
there's that $2 million delta that I was talking to you about, and that's with an 800, so the raw number would be 17 million, so let's say that comes in 2 million less. I mean, if you ask me, I would say ask for the 20 million. If you're telling me ask for 19.5 in order to get it past town, because some reason 19.5 sounds better than 20 million, I'd say ask for that. I would not go in and ask for 15 million.
oh, no, I don't think we get it for that. I mean, I don't think it could be done for that amount. So, okay.
So with that information, and whatever the end result is that we decide on, are you able to get us down to a better number instead of throwing a dart at the wall? Because, you know, 19 million sounds better than 20, but you don't want to go too low and screw yourself later.
Right.
At this point, I know exactly what you're asking, Dave.
Yeah.
I'll try to say it. You don't want to be the low bidder now. That's not where you want to put
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
You want to put yourself with a responsible number in the middle of the grouping that you can expect to see on bid day.
Right, and
That's
that's what I
where
was
you want to
asking.
be right now.
Right.
Can he give us a responsible, with the new information that he has, that might show lower for the project? And I don't know if you have enough information, or if
Well,
it's safe for you to even do that.
I can
yet.
answer that question on the 27th of March.
Yeah.
Okay, because on the 27th of March, we take the Oxford general bids.
Okay.
Again, just because everybody's telling me something, you know, a bird could fly by tomorrow, and then the price comes in at 50 million. I mean, who really knows what
Okay.
happened?
And actually, the 27th of March is a perfect day. There's no problem with
So
that.
27th of March, I find out what the filed sub bids are, I mean, the general bids are for Boxford, okay?
And you understand the risk is you don't ask for enough.
Oh.
Something happens that none of us can foresee between now and August, September
Yeah.
timeframe when we hit the street, and we don't have enough money to award the project.
Right.
That's the
understand.
risk.
Yeah.
So-
And-
Simple.
And that possibly, as we get closer, we may be able to cover that with some ad alternates, as the case may be, to ensure we're underbid.
I would strongly suggest when we get to that point that we do exactly that.
Yeah,
But the reality of it is the more you chip away at it now, the higher your risk
yeah.
that you won't be able to award a project.
Yeah, I wouldn't dare go, I mean, if we get in a lot lower, that'd be wonderful, but I think we should ask for, I mean,
A reasonable.
a reasonable number. There's confidence that we can do it for that. Like, Greg said 19, I think 19.5 would be a reasonable number to be looking at. If it comes in at, I wouldn't feel good with what we're doing to say we'd cut the budget by 2. That just seems,
Right.
Too much.
Yeah.
Well, so Jim, so let's say I take Boxford on the 27 and it comes in at 17.5 or 17.8, pick a number, 17.3.
Okay.
Let's say it's in the 1700s. That means that this estimate that I've given you now at 17,061 is a solid number, or I would feel comfortable in saying that. Because again, they have a lot more site work than you do. Now, if we add the contingency, which we had 5% contingency on this, which would be $853,000, that puts you at 17.9. Okay. So once we're at 17.9, call it 18, and then it starts to looking at the soft cost in there, which is the 2.3. Those are not going to vary that much. I mean, unless clerks are like desperate for work and Neil can get them for $20 an hour, I don't think I've seen any working clerks for only for $20 an hour.
we wouldn't let you do that for $20 an hour. But you get what you're gonna pay for.
Exactly. So anyway, I mean, there's where some of the cost. If it meant the project going and you went at 19.5, I'd say you can make it work at 19.5, assuming there's no major shocks.
Right.
I'm not ready to say go from 20.25 down to 15 and think that it's not going to happen. I wouldn't even necessarily say the soft cost thing, say bring it down to 18 million, because it's probably not going to happen. If you're in the 19 range, I think you'll be okay for planning purposes. Now, if all of a sudden the prices do come in at 15 million and you can return to the town $2 million, great. I mean, what are they going to say? The designer can't estimate, and you're a horrible building committee because you brought the project in $2 million less than you said it was going to be. If that is the criticism this committee gets and stuff, I'm all for it.
Scott, did anybody from the selectman's office talk about, you asked for a separate line item to demolish the house? Just in case this doesn't pass, or either way? Do you know if that's happening, or?
I don't know. I threw it out there at our meeting and as a suggestion, but I haven't, I'm not aware of it going any further.
I haven't asked anybody. It's really, I mean, it's not, that should be something that the selectmen should be looking at. It's not up to us to be asking for demolish. I don't think that's not, I mean, it is, but it is, I mean, it's not a separate item for us to be looking at.
Right, but, like he brought it up, and it makes sense if this project doesn't happen, at least that's one thing we get out of the way for future.
I mean, if this all falls down, you're still gonna have to tear the house down, it's a liability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something you get at fall town meeting, you could do have.
All right.
Yeah. Did you happen to look at the email that I requested about putting some offices into the garage,
did.
Greg? You did?
I did.
Wonderful.
So, right now, the new building has about 5,500, 5,600, and I'm going to call it office. That office includes the break rooms, the locker rooms, all the people spaces, okay? And if you use our average of the 750 a square foot, that puts us at like 3.9 million, somewhere around that area. The existing structure you have is about 8,600 square feet, okay? We're anticipating it to be about $500 a square foot to do that. So you're in the 4 million, 4.3 million. People go, that's outrageous, why is this? Well, yes, you have the foundations, yes, you have the roof, you have walls and everything. Here's now, because it will be a change of use, in use group, because right now you're basically storage, you're going to be moving to a business occupancy. Means now we have to bring the whole building up to code. What does that mean? You have a 1970s unreinforced block building there. So we will have to structure the building inside. It's not like we're going to rip the whole building down or anything, but it's a matter of putting up, interior wall systems or something that can support the brick should there be any seismic action. Just code. It's not, something that, well, we haven't had an earthquake for 50 years. Got it, but code says that. The other thing too is it's uninsulated for all practical purposes. I know you say this, it doesn't have insulation. So we'll be reskinning that building probably with a metal panel or something too. And those two might work simultaneously, they may not work simultaneous. So you're probably already spending like $1.5 million or so just to bring the building up to code and get it the envelope tight and seismically brace the building. Then you're paying for the exact same stuff that you're paying for everything. You're paying for the bathrooms, you're paying for the carpet. We're going to be digging up the slabs, having to replace all the slabs, because when we put in the locker rooms and everything, the drains and stuff in the, you're redoing those. So we're gutting the whole slab. So that's where you're coming up with about $4 to $4.5 million for that. Then you have to ask yourself, so if I'm paying the same as I'm paying for the new office, or I'm paying more than the new office, why would I do that? Because, first of all, from an operational sense, Scott is much better in his building than to being across the way. Second of all, at least by putting the money into the new building and not touching the old building, Scott now has another asset to work with where he can put equipment and everything. So the number is not a big enough swing that it's not like, oh, if we put the new building up, it's going to cost $10 million, and to renovate the garage, it's $4 million. Then I would say, yes, do it. It makes a lot of sense. But in this case, because it's probably going to be more expensive for the existing building to be renovated, I would say leave it, use it as cold storage, dead storage, whatever you want to call it. And I know it's not necessarily cold storage because you do have heating and everything in there. And then just put the new office in the new building, which I think operationally works better in the long term as well. But the big trigger on that is the seismic and the insulation to bring that building up. Everything else is kind of a
It'd have to be
wash.
sprinkled too.
Right.
So do you have to, insulate even, you'd only be renovating the smaller half, the smaller portion. Would you have to insulate the whole garage? Even like where it
Yes, because it's a change of use on the structure, yeah.
All right, well, if it's not a cost savings, there's no point.
Right.
And that's.
And again, I'm
No.
assuming that just because, if the existing structure is 8,600 square feet, okay, and I already using, 5,600 square feet, all it means is you're going to have storage for 3,000 square feet. But again, I still have to put lights in, I still have to put some kind of heating, I still have to put sprinklers in, and all those other things, so.
That's what we wanted to know.
Okay.
That was what we're asking for. We knew it needed sprinklers. It would need sprinklers and it would need some reinforcing, but I wasn't aware of the walls would have to be, the seismic and rest, I just never thought of that one. That's fine. Okay.
Does that sound accurate, Mr. Quinlan?
Sounds good to me.
You won't let us slide by and just call it residential or something?
The seismic thing is what, a little bit separate topic is what the Russell School's gonna run into, because that's basically a brick building without even much of any reinforcing in it. And to bring that to seismic is quite an undertaking.
How many
So-
times did we talk about that, Gary?
Leave that one alone. Anyways,
Got a quote from 30 years ago that was
yeah.
ridiculous.
Let's see. So now we have, we should know on about 23, 27, March was, week and a half away only.
And for those of you who are really anxious, at 2 o'clock, the bid's open. You could run on to bid docs if I don't get the message out immediately. But everybody can go on to bid docs and type in box.
Where's the bid opening? Can we all come down?
It's electronic, disappointed,
No, well, very, very rarely do we
Do they
open
have
any
it?
letters.
Really?
Really?
Very rarely.
There's a few towns that still do it, but
So, once you get that, within the next day or the day after, give me what your comments are, what your thoughts are, what we should be going for a price. And I'll try to get onto the select board meeting for the first Wednesday of the month and give them the latest 2 cents. Well, does everybody agree, before I do that, does everybody agree that the bids are opened on that day? April 2nd, I think, is the first, April 2nd is the first Wednesday of the month, which will have a select board meeting. So if Greg gives us a price, I don't want to have a meeting just to agree to it, but if you want to, we can. That if Greg gives us a revised price, we should go to the select board with that revised price and give them the latest input of what the price, the newest bid is? Or do you want to have a meeting to discuss that before then?
I've got no issue of, you just going. I would like you to stress the money that we put into these meetings,
Oh, yeah, that's all understood, yeah.
but,
And the fact that the money we put into these meetings, if we wait, now is the cheapest time to do it. From what I've heard, it
Yeah,
sounds even
but
better.
I would explain all that, the bids are coming in, not a lot less, but reasonably less than what the estimates are,
Right.
because contractors are hungry. They're expected to be hungry in the fall because there's not a lot of bigger, medium-sized projects out there. And if we wait until a year from now, we don't know what it's gonna be. It could be the same, could be, I doubt it'll be better, but it could be significantly worse.
If you go back and look historically over what building costs have done, traditionally, year over year, the cost of construction is outpacing inflation. So your dollar is buying less and less every year that you wait to do construction. Even if the cost of the project doesn't change, you're gonna get less for it. And that is a 100-year historical fact, so.
And also, the money that we've spent on all this work so far, at a certain point, those plans are gonna be have to be all gone through and starting over from
Yeah,
zero.
if you wait a couple of years and the codes change, you're gonna have to
Right.
redraw all the plans.
So-
That's true.
both of you guys are out of contract after town meeting, is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
We'd have to renegotiate that.
Okay, so then if they decide to wait a year or 2 years, then they gotta come up with money to
Do it
hire
again.
you or somebody to revisit all these plans and pricing
Yeah.
and
The
whatnot.
way the contracts are written, that if we were to wait a year, I believe we could retain both of the companies. But, you're right, at the end of
the
this,
year.
that's another point to make. But when the town meeting is up, there is no further money to use them for anything without expending additional fees. That's the way both contracts are written, I believe.
correct.
So if they don't approve it, and you want something to look at for the fall town meeting, we need more money.
Starting over.
Okay, so,
Not starting over, just.
Well, starting over the money.
readjust.
Gotta refill the check.
Right.
Yes.
We don't want to have to go through another selection process.
No, I know, but the money is gonna start all over again.
So after the 27th, when you get the real numbers,
We get a set of numbers on a comparable project, yes.
then, I just want to get this clear. Right now, we're going to ask for 20.2 million?
Well, the estimate that I gave you dated 2/12, you were asking for 20.25 million.
Okay.
Okay. What I'm saying is today, I'm fairly comfortable saying, and I'll let Neil chime in here, if you put a gun to my head and said, give me a new number today, I would say you could go in at 9.195, 1975, and it would still probably be okay. Okay? Because I know 19s sound better than 20s.
Right.
Okay, so that's where that is. On the 27th, I might even give you better numbers and say, we really lucked out, it came in at $14 million. Ask for $17 million and we think we can get this whole project through. I just don't know what that, I don't think it's gonna be that wild.
No, but if 19 was, you felt comfortable at 19
Right.
after the 27th, and where I'm going with this is for Jim to try to talk to Linda Sanderson about the real cost, you know, but on what you think is a real number in a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
Once he gives me the revised number, whatever that is, I intend to go to Linda Sanderson and get a tax effect dollar increase, so that when we go to the select board, like last time I had a range, and it was considered 94 cents to $1.47.
What you'll see is the difference between 19.5, 19.7, 19.9, and 20.2 on a 20-year bond is negligible.
Yes.
It's gonna be literally pennies on the dollar.
Well,
Not to make light of it, I understand it,
Yeah.
right? But being sensitive to that, the way that financial model works, it's not an appreciable difference between the two numbers.
It's not big dollars, you're absolutely right, but the number we have right now, it's a range. And it's a 50 cent effect on the tax rate range, which is considerable when you look at everything.
Yep.
And that was the best I could get on a short notice, because, and I didn't tell him to put a lot of effort into it.
Right.
Because we only had a ballpark, realizing we'd be coming up with possibly different numbers a
Right.
little bit on. So I don't want to waste anybody,
And
I don't want to waste too much
And
time.
the biggest factors that's gonna change that, right, is interest rates, municipal bond rates, which we don't control, right? You react to the market and you try to do it at the most favorable time that you possibly can. The overall term, 20, 25 years, 30 years, you know, that's a financing decision, right? And then the market, how attractive are the municipal bonds in the market at that particular point in time when you go for funding? And you're talking about going for funding, I'm sure, a year and a half from now, when the project is done and the money is spent. You'll do short-term borrowing between now and then bond it in 2020, late 2026 or early 2027 is when you're actually gonna go for the bonds. So we're talking about something that's not even gonna happen for 2 years.
But Jim, don't worry about the cents, because the government's doing away with the penny anyway,
Yeah.
so we won't be dealing with
It's
that.
gonna be rounded.
I got a bucket like this, I've been saving pennies since the 80s.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be worthless now, I guess.
Copper's $4 a pound.
So, but to just build on what Neil is saying, you know, Jim, I think this committee could pick a number now, 1965, and just say, that's the number we're gonna base it. Because understand that this, you know, 20 million has an $850,000 contingency in there. Now, I'm not telling you wipe the contingency out. Neil and I will not tell you that. On the other hand, you know, at Hudson, we're doing very well on our contingency, and we had only spent like, what, 30,000, Neil, 50,000 of the
Yeah,
contingency?
I would never advise.
Yeah, so we're not saying to wipe away the
Plan on
contingency.
5% contingency.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm trying to
for the
say though is,
project.
if you went in, just so that everybody can have it, and so all your numbers are in place for the meeting on the 2nd or the 1st, whenever it is, it's like, I would just say, go in at like 19.65, 19.7, see, just price it up. Because the worst you're gonna do is come in and say, well, it looks like we could even get a little lower, okay? Which would be good news for town meeting, but at least you can at least get the information out and everybody knows, oh, at 19.75 for the whole project, everybody's taxes are going to increase $200 a year, whatever the number is. And you can get that, you know, rumor, because again, if it comes in at 19 or 18.5, you're probably going to pay $198 a year rather than the $200 a year. I mean, that's what I've seen on these, you know, the swings with, they're not that much. So I would say the committee should just pick a number today and go with it. And
That's good advice. What I will do is I'll start the discussion with the treasurer, collector, treasurer, at 1965, and have her give me some numbers, and won't do anything with those numbers till we hear from you for sure. And I kind of tending to agree with you. There's probably not going to be, if it's lower than that, it's not going to be much lower than that. And so, I mean, this way, we're dropping, we're dropping over $500,000 off the cost of the project, which is quite a bit. And it is under 20. which is tremendously better than when we had a budget price of, what, year and a half ago of 28?
Yeah, 28, 29.
So, and at the time, it was really, it was almost, it was at the end of the COVID where things were just insane. Now things have settled. Towns and cities are basically not spending a lot, nobody's spending a lot of money right now because of a lot of uncertainties, and that's a whole nother topic. So, okay.
Which is why the
So-
work is,
So here's another option to consider. And I'm just giving Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and every town deals with it differently, so one option is you go in and say, our option is we would like to ask for 19.65 million to do the design and the whole project. And everybody goes, this is outrageous, I'm not gonna support it. And I know what you're gonna say, and I want to appreciate. The other option is you go in there and you say, and Neil can chime in on what his fee is on this, but you can go in and say, we want $1.5 million to get the design so that we can have the bids in hand, so when you go to the November town meeting, you will have an accurate cost on that project. So it's not even an estimate at that point. You would literally have the bids in hand. Now, I know the town of Groton does that all the time. The town manager will not go to town meeting unless he has the bid in hand. And so he structures it that way. But that is a way, I know Boxford, that's what they're doing. They're going to take this, whatever number we get in on the 27th, to town meeting and say, this is what the number, it's not an estimate, we're not guessing at it, you know.
By
And-
doing that, you're only assuring a real number of what people are voting for?
Yes.
But you got the opportunity, you may lose that 1.5 million.
right, if they,
Yeah,
if
that's what
that's
I
still
looked
too
at.
much,
Right, but it could be
They-
above that, I guess.
They could vote that in, and then when it's 15 million, all of a
We're
sudden,
not voting
if the
for that
economy
either.
is crap, then people say, I can't afford anything on my taxes, the heck with it. So now, we didn't just lose the 225,000.
yeah.
So
You
you
know,
were.
The other thing too, just again, I'm not, this is not intended to be contrarian logic,
Yeah.
right? When a potential bidder opens up a set of documents and sees that a project has been fully funded at 19.65 million, it helps them to keep a sharp pencil. If a contractor sees that the project has to go back for town meeting appropriation and may not even move forward,
Right.
that estimating pencil gets very
Little
broad,
loose, yeah.
Yeah.
right? So, again, different theories, different.
So your
paths
comment
forward.
was approve 1.5 million for the design.
Get you
and-
to get through bidding, yes.
And actually get bids.
Get bids in
Oh,
hand.
okay, I
And
thought it
so
was-
you would have them, where
Oh.
your town meeting's in November, so we would take bids in October or something, so you would have them fresh off the press, so that you
Yeah.
would take them
I-
as. Now,
I'm-
to kind of agree and disagree with Neil, and you and I are on the same page.
Yep.
I hear what you're saying, well, we just pissed away another $1.5 million or whatever the number is. Again, you're moving into a good climate now. That's what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. You'll have, economy is softening, everybody's hungry, you're taking the bids just when they're, because September is not that far away. Okay, and while I agree with Neil that if there was it's like, I need something. And I would rather go in with a sharper pencil to at least have something in case 2026 drops off the cliff. You know, and there is no work. So you could potentially get that. But going back to what Neil and I both have experienced is, so go out and design it in 2026, design it in 2027, design it in 2028, pick a date, it doesn't really matter. You're all going to be sitting there saying, wow, we could have done this under 20 million, now we're at 20.5. That's what happened to Boxford. Boxford, what was it, 8 years ago, had a package, put it all up, it was going to be $8 million. Everybody said, no, we don't want it. Now they're arguing about whether they should pay the $22 million.
Now, what about, would a true design get us any better estimate?
No.
No? Okay. Because when we went, I'm just using an example, we went for the school 30 years ago, holy mackerel, 35 years ago, take that back, 35 years ago. We approved the design. from the design they gave us, and we had a true design.
Right.
Gave us an estimate, went to town meeting with that, took 5 town meetings for a lot of other reasons, finally got it approved, and built it. But we never went out and got a bid, we just had the estimate when we went to town meetings.
Yes. Well, again, look at Boxford. I had my filed sub bids at $900,000 higher than they came in. I don't think I was that far off, but the point I'm making is, if you ask the question, a full set of documents isn't going to change that. Because again, we're all kind of guessing.
A lot of the, many municipalities that are moving forward based on actual bids in hand are the communities that really got stung when they were bidding work during COVID and prices came in completely unpredictable. They had a number that was approved, a budget that was approved, and when the bids came in, they were 20% under what they needed for projects to go forward. So a lot of those projects had to go back and ask for supplemental funding again, and that's a very distasteful model in the municipal world.
And there's also got to be a time limit. I mean, we did it that way, and you got those bids. How long are they good for?
Well, we write into the contracts. So it will say, you know, the bid is good pending town approval at town meeting, and/or if you need to go to the ballot. I don't know if you have to go to the ballot on this one.
But you're giving them a timeline.
Well, we
Yes.
put in the contract.
So when you go forward with that at, say, the fall town
Right.
meeting or whatever, it doesn't pass, all those bids are,
Right now, what was kind of unusual, and Neil and I are working together on Whitman, okay? Whitman, there were some paperwork problems with the town meeting, and they had to get a green light letter and stuff. The contractor held his price for what, an extra 6 months?
Yeah.
And he's been a little nippy about it, I'm not gonna say it's been, you know, but again, these projects are desirable projects. This is a nice project to have. And I'm gonna bet you're gonna even see some of the big guys out here, like the Fontaines or the DA Sullivans and stuff. I think they will go aggressively after this project. Because this is, even if you're building schools all the time, at least you can put some staff in there and keep them employed for a year or two while we're waiting to figure out what's happening in the rest of the world. Some of the guys that are reaching up will actually cut because they can get, because they're a smaller, yeah. You're not gonna get this, if this were a $500,000 project, I'd say, put it out whenever you want, it's not really gonna matter.
The big boys are hungry. I mean, kind of a funny, interesting thing, like I mentioned, the school. When the final bids came in for the school, Fontaine was awarded the bid. The next lowest bid between the two companies that were both big was under $50,000
Right.
for a $7.5 million job.
Yeah.
And I think it was even lower than that, but I'm not positive because it was so long ago. And we were, even the architect at the time, after the meeting was done, he says, I would love to be in the car with the number 2 bidder driving back to their office, because it was open in a public meeting like this, he says, and they could be sitting there, he says, we lost because of peanuts.
Right.
What?
You know I told you that elementary school that was estimated at 92 million and came in at 82? That bid was only like $200,000 a part too.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what it's like. Neil, did you really have to get ordered to put that extra toilet on there? And Scott, why did you put paper and, cost with that? Yeah. I mean, you don't mind if you lost and left $500 million on the table, but when you're at
Right.
82 million and only 200,000,
Yeah, that's even less than this one. But yeah, I mean, and all we can do is try to get to the town meeting, see what we get, and go from there.
So, Neil, can we go back to your, you had an estimate for the last 100 years on construction costs?
Yep.
So shorten that up, what do you think a year or two down the road is going to be on this job?
It's gonna depend on, I think it's gonna depend a lot upon what happens in the, like in the tariff world. If we get sacked with tariffs and lead times go out and we're having trouble getting steel over the border, whatever else, if those are the conditions we're trying to operate in, you're gonna see prices escalate quickly again. Because contractors are still raw from taking it during COVID.
But if we don't have tariffs and right now, what's the inflation, you're at 2.5%, 3%?
I'd say
something like
5%.
that?
I would say it's between 3 and 5% year over year. That's pretty,
So that's something to,
Yeah.
And understand too, what happened after COVID, and I, Neil, you might have seen this as well, okay? COVID took a lot of firms out,
yep.
you know? So now all of a sudden, you and I are running our HVAC shop, or our steel shop and stuff, and we're going, we laid off half our crew. And we're sitting there going, you know, with the higher prices, why don't we just stay with a 10-man crew? We'll just throw out the number, because there's nobody else out there, and we'll do less work, but we'll get paid twice as much. Now, you guys all think, hey, well, this is great, I'll get into the gig. But by the time you're into the gig, it's the good times have already rolled back. Because I saw a lot of HVAC contractors do that. They would have 20, 30 guys on staff, you know, working. When COVID hit, they pared down to 10. Their prices didn't come down. And they were all telling me they were just making more money with less people. And then plus, I mean, you probably read too, is the industry is not attracting a lot of new people.
No.
And I know that they're doing colleges now, and the government is trying to push funding, low tech schools and stuff to get tradespeople in. But that's not gonna happen in the next 2 years. We're talking 5 to 10 year
That
process.
takes time to
Yes.
build those up. What was your number? Was it 2.5 to 3% you said?
3 to
Neil?
5.
3 to 5.
3 to 5,
Yep.
okay.
And it varies by sector.
Yeah.
Right?
So Jim, if we could change the conversation a little, okay? I understand money is important to everybody, I get that. But the question is, does the town feel that there is a need for this? Because whether this comes in at $1 or $100 million, if I'm not convinced you need this, you know, I'm not gonna fund anything.
I would say the overall consensus in the town is that this is needed. I don't think anybody will disagree much with that one. I don't think I've heard anybody say we don't need it. They realize we need something over there. There's just, well, you know, the building, we need more space. We've got a fortune, for lack of a better term, in equipment sitting outside that can't even fit into the building, even if we had, the building isn't big enough, tall enough. So it has to be sitting outside, and we have to do all kinds of stuff for it. It's just that, it's, you know, what is it gonna do to my tax?
Well, let me ask you this question. At town meeting this year, let's talk spring as well as the fall town meeting. What else is going up? Okay, because Boxford said, we need to get in before the school comes in, because the school's coming down the road. This building up against the school, you're not gonna win.
There is no other, well, I take that back. There's all kinds of stuff. There's talk of a general override at fall town meeting. How much? I don't know. There is
ambulance.
2 other buildings in town. There's the old library that needs to be renovated to be used for town offices. There's the old Russell School that we mentioned earlier in the meeting, that there's a committee, I don't know what the committee's final outcome is, and those are both historical buildings that people are wishing to save truly as historical buildings. The library is not quite as old as the Russell School, and it is built a bit more solid. I mentioned the Russell School. It's the one directly across from the town hall. It's kind of a 2.5-story building, big square building, really nice looking, but it was built in 1896 or 94, I forget the exact date, and it is interior, it's all wood. As far as the outside, it is brick. There is no steel in it. There's no true structure to it. As far as seismic, it doesn't even come close, but it's a solid building. And to be used as almost anything, it needs to be seismic resistant for our zone.
But what do they want to use the Russell School for?
They don't
We don't
know.
have a use.
Everybody's coming up with an idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Well, I don't, I heard that that one, there's also talk about the town hall, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. I heard they put all 3 of those projects on hold.
Okay.
well, anyway, so those historic buildings, until they can come to, because we have our Prescott School in Groton, and this goes through, and they've studied it 32 times. I've done probably 38 of them, you know? It's just, and they think, so what I would say from a strategy for doing those historic, just make sure the roof is tight. Fix the roof. Because we see more buildings deteriorated by the roof.
Just get a wrecking ball, that's
That's
it.
a sore topic. The building next to us.
I am, but my point simply being, if this is a historic building that people love and cherish and everything, but don't know what they're going to do, if they're not going to accept the wrecking ball, just tell them to put an asphalt shingle roof on and just to keep the building dry, and then you can think about it for the next 20 years, what you want to do.
I'd like to go back to your question.
Yeah.
Do the townspeople think they need a highway department? I don't hear anybody that says, no, they don't need it.
Right.
But when you get to the costs that we're at, they don't need so much. That's what I hear from everybody. So, you know,
All we need is a Butler building there. right?
yeah, get a Butler building, put the trucks in there, and that's it. And
But the problem is, these people don't understand what's involved. I mean, we've got right in this building, there's an HDMI outlet. There's two of them here. There's probably some more, there's one on the floor. It's a wall unit, it's in a 4-inch box. These people come in at night and they just snap it, you know, give it a yank, because you don't want to bend over, you might hurt your back. Well, now they're all sloppy, so they've got to be replaced. I called the electrician, he goes, I gotta come out, because some of those are very expensive.
Right.
Came out today, and he goes, the price on a new one is $1,600 to $2,000. It fits in a 4-inch electric box.
Yes.
It's got, you know, stuff in there. He says, I found some reconditioned for $200 with a 90-day guarantee. We could try that, we'll put a box on there, we'll run another cord in there, we'll wire, you know, tie it in there so that they have to pull the cord and unplug it in. Hopefully they don't yank it out.
So, but getting to your point about the costs, okay, this is why I would say, if you go to the tax assessor, or whoever runs the account and runs the number, and say you go in with the 1965, and it says the average household is going to pay $358 a year, okay? That is the number I would leave with every conversation. What is this going to cost you? It's going to cost you $358 a year, okay? But what is it? Because if you tell them the 17, 18, 19, that's all that sticks in their head.
That is the number that I used when I presented to the select board.
Yeah.
But I gave them a range because that's all we had on the tax rate.
But what was the rate? I thought it was up for the 400, I forget what you were, I remember you doing the rate.
I actually have my sheet here. Let's see, where is it?
So both of you are gonna be at the town meetings, all right? Both.
Okay, based on a $390,000 home, what I have, 20, I think it's $20 million I use for a number. Based on a $390,000 home, which is probably right around the average, maybe slightly under, I don't know what the exact average home value was. The quarterly tax increase was a range, $90 to $143 per quarter on your tax bill.
So you said what, 90?
90 to 143
A quarter.
Okay.
per quarter,
Yeah, all right.
because that's how our tax bills come out.
So now, to me, and so I'm just talking from my perspective, and if the town told me 90 to 140, I'd say, oh, so it's really expensive because you're not even giving me the money for the year. Versus if you said, let's say it's 90, okay, it's going to be $360 a year for you. Don't let them do math. Just
Yeah.
tell them straight out, it's $360 a year of taxes, that's $1 a day. It's 2 trips down to Starbucks, or a night out at, the pizza joint, which isn't that far off it.
Well, so I guess 90 to 140,
Yeah.
call it 125.
Right.
That's $500 a year
Right.
on an average house.
Yes,
If you don't have an average house, that's $1,000 a year. If you got a couple of houses in Hadley, that's $3,000 a year. It's not a night, it's not a Starbucks.
yeah, I agree,
Right.
but, okay, Boxford is a financially challenged town. I think the median income there is like $250 for families, okay? They have $3 million, $4 million homes, and they're all squawking, and that's in the book. Guys, you put that Tesla that you just, or the little Charger, or the latest iPod, I mean, you act as if you're all impoverished. Now, I do understand that not everybody town has a, But when I hear this coming out of a town like a Weston, a Boxford, I have to sit there and kind of chuckle, because it's like, look at the shoes you have on. You drop $500 for those shoes, and you're worried about, but they'll be the first ones to complain that their driveway isn't plowed, or their, road isn't plowed and stuff.
So, and that's all true. And there's a lot of people in this town that truly can't afford it because they own tons of farmland, but they don't really have any money to operate with cash. And then you have other people in the middle, well, okay, I can do it. And then you have people that might have 3 or 4 houses or look like they've got a lot of dough, but they work for it and they don't want to go and give it to the towns. They want to be able to do whatever on retirement or vacations with their kids. So everybody has their reasons for not wanting to spend. That's why I've been harping so much about, let's try to get a little bit out of this and that to get it down so we can get to a number that it'll pass, because again, 225,000 thrown out the window plus another 10 or 20 that Jimmy did before I got on the committee. That's a lot of money that we're throwing away, and that's the problem with the town. They do a lot of studies. We're always studying something. I don't know how many times we studied Russell School, and then they threw another, what, $40,000 last time I heard to study it.
We get a study, we get a thing, it's gonna cost us money? All right,
Yeah, there it is.
let's
So,
wait
I
a
guess
bit, let's do another.
So here's the other way of looking at it, and I appreciate, look at that, I've sat through plenty of these meetings, I know I've gone to Groton, we're fully on board with all of this, of what you're saying. What is the magical number, though? I mean, this is where I guess it gets to the point. If I told you we could do it for $10 million, the whole project, well, now I'm paying the $80 a year, that's outrageous. Because now I have 5 properties and I'm spending $500. I mean, there's going to always be some resistance, and I guess that's the question. And this is why I try to sell it more as a value package and not so much a dollar issue. Do they value the DPW? Is it been properly advertised what the DPW does? Because a lot of DPWs do more than just plow roads. That's what everybody thinks. And that's what I guess the question is. And you guys have a better sense of what's happening in your community than us.
And we, over the next month and a half, we need to get that advertisement out. So, I mean, we have beaten this up enough. I don't want to keep going on, I mean, we need to do what we got to do. The open house on the 26th, that's what I want to hit next.
26th of April?
April 26th, that's Saturday. It's the week after Easter. What do you need, what do we need to do for that, Scott?
I talked to Brandy Phil about kind of spearheading this.
She's gonna cook hot dogs for you, right?
Yeah, she's gonna cook hot dogs for us, this open house. And the only thing that I wanna make clear to everyone, or ask the question, I guess, that we discussed that we're going into this as an open house for people to come and see the garage overpacked with equipment, etc., and not a touch-a-truck for a field day for kids, because that's, it makes it 2 different kind of events.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, we got calls this year saying, hey, are you guys gonna do the touch-a-truck again? Well, that was not what it was.
Right.
Well, maybe what you should do is, like I told you in past meetings, pack the garage like you normally do.
Right.
Yeah.
But one or two of the smaller excavators or something, put them out there
Yeah,
so the
no.
kids can get in them and, you know.
Can we do mainly the packed garage, and I think Dave's got a good point. We'll probably get more people interested if the kids can go out there, they don't need to be the big freight liner, but a small dump truck out there where they can go in there and
The mini
touch a truck.
excavators and stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean, that's fine, I just wanna be on the, I guess, clear of what our expectations are. with
Our
this.
expectation is to advertise the DPW garage, how it's needed to get a new one. And I think part of the stuff that goes along with that is get as many people as we can there, and kind of the touch-a-truck outside would go a bit of the way to getting people there.
Is that soccer day as well? No, I'm serious.
It's the week before the town meeting.
Okay, but I'm saying, but do they have soccer, because soccer starts.
You'd be in baseball season.
Or baseball.
I don't know when
I
the
guess what I'm
day
trying to
is.
say is, kind of coordinated, like if baseball starts at, 10 or is over at a time, kind of schedule it so that people can do, because they're already out doing that. One of the things I would say, Jim, and I warn all DPWs about is, don't just pack a lot of trucks in there to say, look at how, Scott, your crew, I would go in there and I would clean that place. Your outside of your building looks great, you've done anything. I'm not saying make it perfect, I'm saying pick up old cans, pick up tools, wipe the dust off. Because one thing that people always walk in and they see, like tools that are dust this thick sitting around, it's like, they just don't maintain this place. Why would I give them, well, at least if it looks clean, but worn, there's a completely different attitude. So
Well, that's true, but what I think I'm getting at is, if we don't show how he has to jam those trucks in tight in the big section, and then maybe if he's parked, it'd be good if a loader was a part or something big that they're actually doing mechanical work on, show how tight it is for the mechanic, something like that. Not pick up all your junk and oily rags and stuff thrown around, but
see, this is what I would do. I would advertise a restroom in the thing. And you want to fill people up with lots of liquids, so they have to use that restroom. Because you have one toilet stall in that building, okay? And while you guys have it tidy and stuff, it's not the most pleasant bathroom I've been in, okay? Send everybody through that bathroom. Because I get the trucks, and I'm not saying don't park the trucks in there and stuff, but people don't relate to those trucks. I have to take little Johnny in, or little Susie, into that bathroom, and this is appalling. And we have won more DPW projects because they visited the toilet room. And that's how I'd open up the slideshow too.
I don't get the sandy cans here.
That's a good example. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah, okay.
What
So
what are
we
the
don't
hours
have
of this?
No, make
That
them
was
do
the
that.
other
What would you
question.
like it to be?
6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
I think you probably should do it like 10 to 1, 10 to 12.
I didn't-
2 hours is enough,
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, oh, yes. So 3 hours, that's a lot, so that's a lot.
That's only if you did it 10
Through
to
lunch,
12.
get him the hot dogs.
Yeah, 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
And you don't even have to spring for the hot dogs if you do popcorn and cotton candy. With a dumpster, a loader out there so the kids can play on it. But make sure there's lots of soda and stuff, so you have to use that restroom.
Right.
So getting back to refreshments, what do you need from us to help with that, or are you gonna take care of that yourself? I just wanna make sure we do what we have to do.
I don't think we have to do too much. I know Brandy's kind of orchestrating this and trying to, find some resources of donations.
Okay, so she's taking care of most of that?
Yeah.
Okay. If you need help from us, make sure we let us know so that we can do whatever we have to do to coordinate and help out.
Yeah.
are you gonna have drawings and poster boards or something?
Yeah, we can get boards, made up for you.
Yeah, I think, one or two,
We'd have like the site plan, the floor plan, and one rendering.
that's
all we
perfect.
need.
One of each, that's all we need.
Not a quarter scale full model.
Video walkthrough. You have to go, exactly.
You guys don't build a real mini building like they do at UMass, so you can see like two
No,
sides?
we don't do that.
What is the point of that? Is that required by anybody?
No, I think it's educators are challenged spatially, because I've done numerous universities and stuff, and I'll say, the faculty or dean or something, where's the mock-up? Because one of those small universities on the Charles River, we actually had to build the entire room for them to understand what it was going to look like. And then they'd approve colors and stuff, and they'd walk in, this is a horrible color. So we would repaint it 3 times before we,
It's amazing how many people have no concept, even when they see a
Right,
drawing, to
right,
understand
drawing is
it.
nothing for them.
I know just an example, when I designed my house, and my wife and her sisters and stuff could all read drawings. And so when I put a drawing together, they could read it just about as good as you or me, and it was great.
But some people in the space don't even realize that they're in the space.
Oh, there's a lot of
It's
people
like,
that.
they'll sit here and they'll go, where's the door to get out? I mean, I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
range, but most people cannot read drawings.
That's true.
Yeah.
A lot of, I wouldn't say no, but there's
But
a
I would
lot.
say
There's
in
enough.
education,
Especially in education, it seems, well, they're teachers. I mean, I don't fault them for that. If you've never been shown and instructed and understand that, you see a drawing, it's like, totally obscure to
Jim, at the
them.
university level, they're smarter than you. And they tell me that.
As referred to, I won't say it because I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm being careful too. But I mean, they all think they're smarter than us and they will tell us how to do our jobs.
Well, and now, like I said, different people have different skills.
Yes.
Reading, drawing, understanding a drawing is truly a skill. And if you've never been shown how to read or explain, the first couple times you see it, they have no clue. So I don't fault them for that, it's just a matter of the way it is.
In your presentation at the, let's say, town meeting, I think something important to stress is how much, there was this one guy that was a real pain in the neck to try to get the price down. Because that's what people want to see is, did you cut out all the fringe stuff that isn't needed? Because like we just said, they kind of think, yeah, you need something, you need a butler building. Like, what did we cut out that, wasn't necessary, or maybe that was Taj Mahal, and whatnot, but
When you think of a Butler building, this building is not much different than a Butler building. It's an insulated metal building with
I
a
understand, but when
4-foot
a Butler
concrete
building,
wall.
and then you say $20 million.
Well, they're gonna,
What are you,
they're
nuts?
also gonna look at the 4 women's toilets and stuff, going, what do you need that many for? Well, there's
Okay,
different.
I can answer, but, so there's a very good question, and I do whatever you all ask me to do. Some towns want me to do the presentation.
We do.
Other towns say no because it's just a high-priced consultant just trying to push a job down their throats. So your town, you tell me what your town thinks.
We were at our last meeting, we discussed that, and we were in favor of you doing the presentation. I will introduce everybody, the committee, yada, 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 and we were thinking that you should do the presentation, because it'll probably end up being smoother than if I do it.
Okay, that's fine.
The only thing I'd say about that is, a couple of years ago when Mike did it on the fire truck, he took so long that people, all right, come on, hang up already.
yeah.
So,
So,
I will probably do it in 5 minutes or less.
Yes.
Because, no, seriously, the
Yeah.
first thing I do is, I'm telling you now, I'm just going to do the warning, and I will send it to, I'm going to open with the toilet slide.
that's great.
And I'm going to flip through we usually flip through like a half dozen slides showing some of the critical issues and stuff, like the back end of the back truck sticking out of the barn, just things that people can understand. Then we say, here's the new floor plan, we usually color code them, here's the admin area, here's the repair area, here's this. The site plan, just gonna walk them around, and then a rendering. One rendering is all you get.
Yeah.
And then they can pepper me with questions, and then I usually say, the project, if we had a bid in hand or not, well, we won't have it for, May, but, would come in and say, yeah, this is what we're estimating it to cost, and then they'll say, well, what is it gonna do to our taxes? And that's when I'm gonna turn to you, Jim, or whoever, and say, that is not my skill set, and if they wanna come back and say, I'll be happy to discuss. I will not argue with anybody about pricing on town meeting. I'll just say, well, why do we need the code dictates it. The plumbing code requires it's the number of people based on area, not on actual staff.
have you ever gone for variance on some of that, on the toilets? I know at UMass they have in the past.
No, I've not gone for a variance.
Is that a possibility, or?
Yeah, so what are we gonna say,
Well, I don't
$3,000?
We still got all the underground, and if it's
No, I mean, I'm
6 more
happy
feet of
to,
more
so,
toilets.
You can't, what my experience with variances is, you can't go in with a financial hardship and ask for a variance.
Right. I get
You
a
can go
plumbing
in,
magazine.
you can go in with a spatial restriction that will not permit you to meet code and develop a reasonable workaround that they will probably accept and grant you a variance. But if you go in and say, we don't need 4 stalls in the women's room, we would like to propose 2, they're gonna say no.
Okay, but that's something that needs to be explained at town meeting, because
Yeah.
you're gonna say, oh, it's code, and then somebody's gonna say, ah, that's crazy, and then you can,
Well, I get a plumbing magazine from Webb every month, and it lists, it tells you who got a plumbing, all their
Yeah.
licenses and everything. It also shows you all the questions that the plumbing board had brought before them and their verdicts. You're lucky if you get 1 out of
Right.
20.
That says yes.
So,
Yeah.
the other thing too, I'd ask Scott to do, or whoever does your personnel thing, if somebody could just check quickly the job descriptions. The reason I say that is because, like we do a lot of Eversource's work. And because of the underground and overhead job descriptions, you have to be able-bodied. So there are things that we can kind of reduce or go back on. However, once we get through the state level, then we have to go to ADA. Okay, and ADA is, I have to make a reasonable accommodation so that, there's no reason why, Scott, I don't know what your job description says, that you could be disabled and still be, superintendent of the DPW, because you're not plowing and everything. So then I have to make sure that your office and everything is accommodated. So at the end of the day, at least if you have the job descriptions, it can kind of address some of these
We've
issues.
also run into that at the thing where somebody wants to come down and discuss something.
Yes.
And the town administrator, back now, he's like, well, we got trailers with no ramp, so if you
Right.
wanted to put a ramp, it'd have to be an Evel Knievel ramp, it'd
Yes.
be about all the way out to the road. So it's like, oh, you can bring them right into the workshop. Really? You're gonna
And
go in
that's
and meet while somebody's
discriminatory.
in there welding or something, Insurances are gonna cover you in the area, but you can go meet them in there and bring all your paperwork in there and sit down.
And then that's when you get sued for discrimination, because why does everybody else go into the nice trailer and I have to go into the dirty workshop?
see, you got a nice trailer, he just said it's.
It is pretty nice.
Is there a discount for a construction trailer use? There's already one on site.
But Gary, the police fire station's under for females now, right? That's why they're trying to add to their locker rooms and all. I know this is a little extreme.
They had, yes, they have.
But
the
they've had
locker
alter
rooms,
from
but
the
now they're
original
getting to a
code.
capacity where they don't have
That is
enough.
one thing I would never do though, because, they have the potty purity code here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Do not undersell women in the DPW, because you want to see the meeting turn quickly.
Lose your vote.
You better be safe. And when you're trying to, because I know Hudson is having a problem, a lot of towns are saying, they can't get women to work because they have the one stall, and women just won't work it. And so if you have any stories like that, Scott, that you can say, we've interviewed women and stuff, they see our facilities and they refuse to come here. That is a really good player. That's why you're doing this and giving them the appropriate locker rooms and everything else.
Okay,
So,
all good points. I propose that we have a meeting on 4/16 to review both the plans for the DPW open house, whatever we've gotten for revised prices, and get ready for the town meeting. That'll be the last meeting before town meeting. That sound good to everybody? 4 o'clock? That's the weekend, Wednesday before Easter. So it should be not much going on for that holiday yet.
are we having an egg hunt that day?
If you want,
That's not in the budget.
yeah. We'll bring eggs and kielbasa ahead of time.
There you go.
So, Jim, I'm just curious, based on all these conversations, do you think you'll ask for the full funding? Do you think you'll ask for, I know the selectmen are the final say on that, but what is the committee going to recommend?
I'm gonna recommend 19.65, full budget. Because to your point, I will explain why we don't wanna just do the design, because the design between what you have indicated, a design with a true bid, the bid may or may not be the best bid we could get if we said we have the money in hand. I think most of the select board will understand that, if not all of them, so that we're either gonna go for the ball of wax or nothing.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents, I think. Anybody disagree with that?
Yeah, wasn't it being clear at the last meetings that we're not gonna waste
Yeah,
any
we
more?
can't-
It's either gonna go or
Can't
not.
play this, keep.
Yeah, and if we
I don't
don't
think
get.
that 1.5 is gonna go.
We spend, okay, 1.5 for the design. We've already spent roughly 250 on this. We're gonna spend, and if the budget doesn't get approved, we're gonna throw 1.75 million away? To me, that, I mean, that's a
big
lot of
watershed.
money to, that's a big study. That's an expensive study.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, so is 416 good, everybody?
So, but I just want to make sure I have all my dates. So the open house is on the 26th,
Correct?
the meeting is on the 16th. When is town meeting?
For, the first Thursday in May.
May 1st, is it?
Let's see.
I would pull out my phone. but
May
that's all I'll do.
1, May 1 is
Yeah,
town
May
meeting.
1st, yeah.
7
What
o'clock.
time is that?
7 o'clock in the Hopkins. Sometimes it's in the gym, sometimes it's in the cafeteria, depending what their preference is.
And do you know what you'll be like from first on the list, eighth on the list?
They would typically, we will probably be somewhere near the end of the agenda.
Okay,
That's typically where they put planning board and big items like this.
okay.
Planning board is usually dead last, if we have anything.
So don't plan an 8 o'clock meeting the next day.
How late do you plan your town
The agenda for the town meeting is typically out, or the warrant is typically out 2 weeks before the meeting. So we would be able to tell you probably very close to the 16th of April, or at least at the open house, where this would be on the warrant, if it's on the warrant, and you'd have a good idea. Yeah, you don't need to be there for 7 o'clock. If you get there for,
9:30.
8 o'clock or whatever it might be, you should be in good shape.
I think usually by 10 o'clock, people are beating it, and then they postpone. They don't like to, they like to finish because it's cost,
Yeah.
So the other question then is, and that could work in your advantage too, because I know we put certain meetings where we need the seniors to vote them through.
Yeah, but we still need them at the ballot.
We
That's
still have to
the
go to a
problem.
ballot.
Oh, you'll still have to go to a ballot.
Yeah, this is a true override, so we need a 2/3 town meeting vote, and then a 50% majority on a ballot.
Okay. So it sounds like you'll get it at town meeting, it's the ballot that's the challenge.
That's usually what happens.
Usually the town meeting is, I mean, there have been times when it's passed at town meeting and failed on
Yes,
a
it
ballot,
is. I think
but
it's-
not that many.
Okay.
Because all of Gary's friends don't want to vote no when Gary's sitting there.
Right,
They'll get them behind his back.
Yeah, but when you get to the paper ballot.
Yeah, when nobody
you can do
sees
whatever-
what you're doing.
Do whatever you want to do.
You don't have the little clickers yet?
No clicker.
Green card, red card.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you very much for attending tonight, it's been a big help, as usual. Motion to it, anybody have anything?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Who seconded? Tom?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Meeting is history, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex.